Hello everyone, and welcome back to PeliCast. On today's episode, I would like to welcome Dr. Balko, who is a pathologist at Motol Hospital. He will talk about his career, his studies, and his work as both a doctor of pathology and a teacher. And of course, he will tell us about his unique passion for art. So if you're interested in either of those topics, this episode is for you. Hope you enjoy! Hello everyone, and welcome back to PeliCast. As today's guest, I would like to welcome Dr. Balko from Motol Hospital, who works as a pathologist. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me, actually.
Of course. Would you mind telling us a bit about yourself and where you studied?
Yeah, of course. So I graduated somewhat 12 years ago at our faculty, actually. And since then, I have been working at the Department of Pathology and Molecular Medicine, which also I finished my specialization training here and passed my final certification exam. Well, the first one, the second one was in the Hradec Králové. And after, let's say, 7 years of work, I have also applied for PhD studies and in experimental surgery, which was kind of late after 7 years, but because it was a little bit later, I tried to finish it as soon as possible. And after 3 years, I graduated from that. And since then, I'm a deputy for teaching affairs at the aforementioned department.
Thank you. So in today's episode, I would like to maybe ask you more about how you balance your life, your work, since you both teach and work as an actual doctor at our department. So could you maybe tell us about why you chose pathology? It's one of the most challenging.
Yes, of course. Well, the balancing is not easy, actually, because you have to balance the science, the teaching, and also the work as pathologist in the hospital. But it's doable, actually, and that's what we say to our students in the third year, well, because you can experience it now, that this time management is one of the crucial skills the medical students should discover and apply to their life, because it's very useful. And you can be surprised how many things can be done if the time management works, actually. What was the question again? I forgot.
Why you chose to go into pathology?
Oh, yes, I forgot the second part. Yeah, thank you. So, I have chosen pathology even during the high school, so very early, because I was kind of resolving this dilemma of being or going to art school or medicine, actually. And I have decided for medicine because they rejected me in the art school, to be honest. But still, I think it was a good decision. I don't regret this. And the pathology was my dreamy field of medicine, because I'm interested in all these diseases, just like in a detective story, let's say. To discover the diagnosis, it's very amusing for me, and I like it. So that was my kind of thinking when I decided for this field of medicine, which I think would be better, because I'm more like a theoretical type than to be in ambulation practice or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Would you, after, working here for 12 years, you said, would you recommend this kind of journey to our students as well?
Well, speaking of my experiences, I would definitely recommend this. And I must say, the studies at our faculty, that was one of the best years of my life. But I was lucky to have excellent schoolmates in my, we call it this classroom, the kruh, let's say. So we were the eighth one, and I think it was the best. So I enjoyed the studies. It was hard, of course. It's challenging, but still, it's rewarding, I must say. And I think I don't experience any burnout even after all these years in practice.
That is amazing. Yeah. Everyone I talk to, they always say their group is the best. They don't say group 2 is the best.
Yeah, so that's a shared experience.
Of course. Would you maybe give our prospective students some kind of advice on how to stay as motivated and as passionate as you are?
Yes, well, the key role is the time management, because if you balance this well, you can be effective in learning and as well as in the social life, which is good. And I think the support from your schoolmates is also very important. I'm not sure if I would finish this school without my schoolmates. We even were the learning in the group when there was some challenging subject, such as pathology, for example. So we studied together, and I think it was very effective and useful.
Perfect. Okay, so if we could maybe move towards the like details of how you balance your life. To maybe use. You mentioned the art that you wanted to choose between art and medicine, which to me are exact opposites.
Yes, it is.
So could you maybe talk more about that, about your passion?
Yeah, of course. So during my high school, I worked with my brother together, and we produced these indie PC games. And I was doing the graphics as well as the animation. So I was considering to be a professional animator in FAMU University or faculty. But as I said, they rejected me, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately in those times, but looking back, I must say it wasn't a bad decision because I tried to work as a professional artist even during the medicine. I have done portraits, illustrations, etc. But I think it wasn't. It's not for me. Actually, I prefer medicine or doing medicine for work to be better actually than doing art because I have recognized that I prefer to do art or at least the topics by myself, not to be told what to do actually, what to draw, what to paint, and such.
So did you ever take any courses, or was your work completely just you?
Yeah. The only course I ever had in art was elementary art school during my regular elementary school, which I actually graduated from, if we can say graduated, twice in a row. So that was the only thing I had, but all the other painting techniques I have tried, it was taught by myself actually.
That is amazing. I must say I did look up your pieces before this episode, and they are amazing. So could you maybe talk about what you like to use? How?
Yes, of course. For example, during the elementary art school, we were taught these basic practices like drawing with pencil, ink, and such. And in those times, I liked drawing more than painting, actually. So they gave us free hand with my brother, and we did mainly the drawings. However, we were not working with colors much. But lately, let's say 10 years back or even less, I tried to paint more, and I have discovered oil actually. Oil paintings like 5 years ago, and that's my favorite technique nowadays. It's very challenging, but it produces the best results, I must say. So that's my favorite thing now.
Okay, it's amazing. I also actually did some art in high school.
Oh, nice.
My favorite was pastel pencil.
Oh, pastel.
So oil for me is even more impressive because it's a really hard medium.
Yeah, it's a hard medium. For example, the drying out of these paintings, that it can take up 1 year actually. So it's quite, it requires some patience, I must say.
Like all art.
Yeah.
Would you say, how often do you, like, as both a teacher and a doctor, do you genuinely have the time to put in?
Yes, I'm trying my best, and I must say, let's see, once or twice per week I have a day for painting, at least afternoon or evening. So, well, that would be it, and yeah, it produces some results. I had more when I was illustrating these medical textbooks, but it took me countless nights and evenings. But nowadays, when I'm doing stuff according to myself, it's usually once or twice per week.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you have that kind of time also when you were studying, or was it a lot less in the foreground?
Well, I must say, I think medical students are kind of a little bit, well, maybe busier, let's say. Well, I started work at 7 a.m. and I finish, let's say, usually 5 p.m., which is kind of longer than the medical school is, well, the teaching classes and courses. But I think when I come home, I have, in general, more free time than medical students because you need to learn for exams after you return from school. So in this kind of point of view, I think I have more free time than I used to. But it's now, during previous years, I had to study for my final exam, for my PhD studies and such. After all this is finished, nowadays I can say I have more free time than I used to have.
Perfect. Okay. Now, you mentioned your work in illustrating medical textbooks. And for me, as a student of our faculty, I see your work in the pathology department as the little posters. Could you maybe talk about that, how you linked your love for pathology with your skill?
Yeah, it actually started during the medical school itself. When I was in the, I think, 5th year, I was asked to illustrate these textbooks of anatomy. Maybe you know Memoagix Anatomy by Dr. Hudák and his associates like Professor Kachlik and such. And we produced this first medical textbook, which I've illustrated. There were over, I think, 800 illustrations, so it was quite challenging. And that was this one which I did in the evenings and during the nights during the final years of medical school. And after that, I have written and I also illustrated the Memoagix histology. And after that, some other authors asked me to illustrate their textbooks. And in total, I think I have illustrated over 11 textbooks so far. So also ear, nose, throat medicine, Latin, neurosurgery, pathology, of course, and angiology and such. But I think I'm satisfied with that. I don't want to illustrate medical textbooks anymore.
So you would say it was more of a job than the passion?
Yes, that was more exactly. That was, or it became more of a job than a passion, because I was always told, now draw the heart from this point of view. And in the second textbook, it was the same picture, but I have to redone it because of some laws and such rules. And so I have illustrated some, let's say, heart pictures or bone pictures. So many times that I'm fed up with that nowadays, and I don't want to do medical textbooks anymore.
Fair enough. Yeah. I would just like to maybe take a moment to explain to our listeners that Memoagix, for example, and the textbooks that you mentioned, they are textbooks that we recommend a lot to our first-year students. So to our prospective students out there, you will definitely see those drawings very soon.
Yes, and I think they became a little bit, well, at least I think popular because, and it always touches my heart when I see medical students learning from those books, and it wasn't in vain, So.
I must say that I have both of them memorized, or had both of them memorized for my final in my first year. And now I'm reading the pathology book that you also illustrated. So, your work is influencing
Thank you.
a lot.
It's lovely to hear all those countless nights not in vain.
Worth it. Yeah. So now that we maybe linked a bit with how you linked the medicine with the art, when you go home and draw your stuff that you want to, do you ever get inspired by your work, by what you see?
I mainly don't, but I think there is another connection because the pathology as a field of medicine is very we are actually examining pictures, because those H&E slides, these are kind of pinkish usually pictures, and we are evaluating them. So there is some strong connection with art here, and I think, as I know many pathologists, I must say a huge amount of them is actually interested in art. In any form of art, and so even in our department we have colleagues who play some instrument, several of those, or participated in acting in theater, for example. Or they don't paint maybe, but they like actually the paintings, and they visit galleries and such. So I think, we are not sports usually interested, but in art, definitely a huge amount of us.
I'm just going to clarify, but you said H&E, those are just microscopic slides.
Oh, yeah.
Just for,
H&E is hematoxin eosin staining. That was just a shortcut.
And for us, it's every first-year medical student, it's the nightmare because it's just pink and blue blobs.
Yeah. From very start, nobody likes it, and I didn't like it either. But then I learned histology. I started to teach it actually. Then I written the textbook, and nowadays I enjoy microscoping more even than other parts of our work. So, which is kind of good because the main activity I do during my work is actually evaluating the microscopic slides. That's like 90% of my job.
Maybe now that kind of brings me to my next question. Could you kind of, as a teacher, what advice would you give to a student who's trying to figure out, histology and pathology for the first time, how to orient themselves?
Well, it's kind of different because in pathology we are trying slowly to reduce the histology part, and we are mainly teaching our students the clinical part of diseases and to understand actually the biology between them. But if somebody is learning histology for the first time, let's say in the first year in medicine, Well, there is no other rule than to try it all over again and to work with the microscope as much as you can. And there will be a point when you start to see those structures clearly and you will recognize it immediately. So you don't have to search for it countless hours, and you will see immediately that this is a nerve, this is a vessel, and whatever. So, yeah. Nowadays, I get through the slide in several seconds and I know what it is, but it's just because of those countless hours of looking in the microscope.
Mm-hmm. So practice makes perfect.
Yeah. But as histology and pathology, those are all morphological sciences, and I think learning it from pictures or schemes, let's say, illustrations, is very useful because it's definitely easier than to learn these topics from the text, actually. So, yeah, at least start with the schemes, how it should look like, and then switch to the microscope and the real life itself. That would be the best approach, I think.
And I must say that I can see that, like, when you teach, you have both, the theory plus the actual images.
Yes.
It's very helpful for us as students.
Thank you. Glad to hear that.
Yeah. Can I also ask you, maybe you studied here and you decided to stay at our hospital and work at Motol. Was there something specific that inspired that, would you say to our students who are maybe considering a career at Motol?
Yes, well, it kind of depends on which type of field of medicine you want to work in. For example, I think doing surgery or something like this is, for the starters, let's say, better in the smaller hospital. Mm-hmm. But I think being a pathologist, the bigger the hospital, the better, actually, because you will see more of the cases, you will make more or deeper diagnosis, and you will be equipped with more techniques, even on the molecular level, as our department has. So I think that's the best. But in my personal story was a little bit different. I tried to apply there at our department, but I wasn't applying for the job actually. But I was applying for the PhD studies, and I was offered to work there instead of the studies. So I accepted, and since then I have been pathologist.
Okay. That's nice. Could you maybe talk about your day as a pathologist? Because I know it was very different than from what I expected it to be, honestly.
Yes, of course, because usually people think that pathologists perform autopsies and that's the 100% of our job.
Yeah.
It used to be in the past, but it's like 100 years ago. And nowadays that's something completely different. And the main part of our job is actually helping or making diagnosis for living patients. So I wake up at 6 a.m., go to work to be there at 7 a.m. approximately, and I start to work, which 90% of my job is actually checking the microscopic slides via microscope, and these are the biopsy samples taken from the living patients. Mm-hmm. So that's main part of my job, as I said, and I specialize in mainly soft tissue and bone tumors, which are quite rare, but I also perform these consultations for other hospitals, so we have plenty of those cases. Mm-hmm. And the other part of my job is teaching, because as I said, I'm a deputy for teaching affairs, so all the organization of the subject of pathology, it's up to me, together with Professor Zámočník, which is the head of our department, and I like teaching actually. That's the not the major part of my work, but the best part of my work, I must say. So we are surrounded by young people who are interested in the subject. That's the best thing I can do. And also science. But I do the science, so writing the articles and such, usually at night at home or in the evening, let's say. Because there is no time to do it during normal 8 hours during the work.
Is there something specific that you focus on with your research?
Yes, I started with transplantation medicine, which is also the field I do for transplantation of lungs, heart, and uterus, actually, which was the topic of my PhD studies. But after I finished my PhD studies, I switched my research interest into these soft tissue and bone tumors, because there is plenty of undiscovered things so far. So usually molecular analysis of those, and even AI studies in diagnosing, let's say, osteosarcoma. That was all topics of my research nowadays. So I'm more I have dived into this kind of research now.
That is amazing. You have a very well-rounded career.
Thank you.
And maybe as a little kind of before we finish up, I would like to ask you your paintings. Do you ever sell them? Do they ever go, do they ever see the light?
Well, the only part of the year they see the light is during the Motol Art, which is actually exhibition of, something like that, for medical students and teachers. I've established that like in 2008, I think.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yes, I was the founder. And since then it continues. And so I try to put my works there once a year, but all the year round they are actually at my atelier at home. But I upload them on Instagram and on other social networks like Facebook. So if you want to, you can see that there, but I don't display it anywhere else actually, and I don't sell them because I wouldn't have the heart to sell those pieces which I spend several hours with. So that's not I won't do.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, thank you very much. Before we completely finish, would you like to give maybe some kind of advice to our potential students out there? You have had a very successful career studying and teaching and being a doctor. Is there something that you might want to...
Yes, well, if you have decided for the second faculty of medicine, I think that's a good choice. Even though I wasn't sure when I applied, I think it was worth it. And yes, I would recommend the studies at our faculty, definitely.
Me too. Thank you.
And thank you for inviting me.